to make some opening remarks, and for everyone who's here, thank you for being here. So I'll have some opening remarks with Representative Dexter, and then we will have, we'll be signing bills in a certain order, and we would love everyone to come up here and be part of the celebration and signing and for photographs. So just thank you all for being here. We really appreciate seeing everyone. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am so appreciative to be here with dedicated lawmakers, advocates, people who've been working really hard on some very important pieces of legislation from this legislative session, who have worked tirelessly to make sure we could have progress on housing and homelessness in our legislative session. As you all know, I began my work as governor, calling on leaders in Oregon to come together in a bipartisan fashion to advance solutions for housing and homelessness in our state. We know we have a crisis, that housing crisis, and the biggest indicator of that crisis, too many people living unsheltered, is something we need to make progress on. And here today, we are signing bills. I am signing bills that show that we are making progress to make sure every Oregonian has a place to live, a safe and secure place to be. It will come as no surprise to everyone who's been following what we've been up to that I've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of Oregonians, about housing. On our One Oregon listening tour, it is a top topic of conversation. And whether you're on the coast, in the valley, or out in the beautiful Wallowa Mountains, every community is wrestling with how they provide more housing for their community, the housing that they need, whether it's land, whether it's bureaucratic barriers, whether it's the workforce that has to build it, or how do you finance these projects? All of these things are top of mind in communities across our state. And what's good about today is we are making progress to be helpful. And of course, we will have, as always, more work to do in addition to that. The 4 bills that we are highlighting today in this signing event tackle these challenges in different ways and complement the efforts that were made very early on in the legislative session, a bill that I signed in March, to address our emergency homelessness issue in that response package. So the 4 bills today, we have House Bill 3042, Senate Bill 611, House Bill 3395, and House Bill 5511. So House Bill 3042 and Senate Bill 611 are about providing predictability for renters. It's helping people be housed by providing that clarity of if and when they are going to see rent increases, because that predictability helps prevent evictions. And we know the most efficient way to help people is not to let them become homeless in the first place. So I'm very proud about 3042 and 611 because they are saying, let's provide clarity and predictability for people who are renting so they can help stay housed. House Bill 3395 was the legislature's end of session omnibus housing policy and investment bill. It's pretty big. Among other things in the bill will make it easier to build affordable housing on commercial lands. It gives local communities needed flexibility to site shelters that they need to serve our homeless neighbors. The bill removes barriers for subdividing affordable housing property, expands the state's historic statewide legalization of duplexes to smaller cities, and so much more. That's the policy side. On House Bill 3395, on the investment side, there is $50 million in that bill to help low-income college students access affordable housing options. It includes grants to develop housing projects for agricultural workers. It talks about grants to cities, counties, and tribes to aid in housing and community development initiatives. And it also funds programs that guarantee loans for affordable housing projects. And there's a lot more in that bill. The last bill I'm signing is House Bill 5511, which is the budget bill for the Oregon Housing and Community Services budget. And it includes a host of strategic investments that will help Oregon move out of our housing crisis and into housing stability, including the bill maintains the state's critical investments in expanded shelter capacity through proven solutions like Project Turnkey, navigation centers, and emergency shelters for survivors of domestic violence. We must ensure the households who are being rehoused through the emergency response have the ongoing support they need to maintain their newfound housing stability. The bill also expands our homelessness response and preventing more households from experiencing homelessness. We must both prevent homelessness and rehouse people living outside, one household at a time. The budget bill also expands home ownership and asset building opportunities to Oregonians. We have to help more Oregonians get into homeownership. And the bill also supports our tenant assistance organizations who are working with renters to make sure they can stay housed. All of this is important. And if you look across the board, this legislative session, the legislature, with my support, will be investing $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion to address our housing and homelessness crisis. $650 million of that in housing development production for folks who need permanent supportive housing and low-income housing, and $500 million in general fund to work on homelessness and homeownership and housing development. These are critical investments for state. I hope everyone who is here today can take a moment to feel the importance of this progress, because these bills represent progress and they are about helping Oregonians and Oregon communities who need help. So thank you for your work, for everyone who's here today. But despite the progress, the crisis continues. And those who know me know that I might rest for about 30 minutes and then we say, okay, what's next? We have more work to do. And so I am eager to work with everyone here to go forward on the things we need to make happen, because we need more change in addition to the progress today. I am focusing on next year's legislative session to come in with a comprehensive agenda on housing production. We are focusing on the work of the Housing Production Advisory Council, where we have bipartisan legislative involvement. We need to come into next session with a clear agenda on housing production, which includes taking up the issue of land supply that was part of the conversation at the end of session. The reality is we have work to do. We are making progress. This is about progress today, and it's also about let's build on it and keep going. And I know that everyone in this room today knows that. They're ready to take a bit of a rest, but get right back into it and get ready for the session next year. So thank you all for being here. I would like now to welcome up to the podium a stalwart on housing and homelessness this legislative session, the chair of the House Housing Committee, the Honorable Representative Maxine Dexter.
Thank you, Governor Kotek. I'll make sure that this is on. Sorry. Right. Thank you, Governor Kotek and esteemed colleagues, and our advocates, most importantly, who are here today. We feel both immense gratitude and hope as we come together to celebrate the signing of multiple pieces of crucial legislation passed in the 2023. Every Oregonian deserves to have a safe and affordable place to call home. The steps we've taken this session move us closer to this goal and help secure our long-term success to this end. As a practicing physician, I witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of chronic homelessness and soaring housing costs on my patients. I see it manifest in making hazardous decisions to postpone care. I see it as patients return repeatedly with infections and complications of prior hospitalizations due to not having a safe place to recover. Addressing this crisis isn't merely a matter of housing policy. It is an urgent humanitarian imperative. As the chair of the House Committee on Housing and Homelessness going into the 2023 session, I understood that investing in our housing supply would require a multifaceted approach. There was a broad spectrum of policy choices available, and we focused strategically and intentionally on doing what we could to preserve currently affordable housing, innovate in the way we produce housing, and expand access to safe and affordable housing to populations often forgotten. This includes our college students and our agricultural workers. Today, we take a critical step towards making a more resilient Oregon, better equipped to confront every challenge ahead of us. HB 3395, a cornerstone of our efforts, makes strategic investments and policy changes across the housing continuum. As Governor Kotek already addressed the importance of this package, I will take the opportunity to highlight our investments for college students and agricultural workers. $10 million will go towards developing community-based housing for our agricultural workers and their families. These individuals pick our food and care for our crops. Many of these hardworking people have struggled to keep their families safely housed. By supporting their ability to live in community with other farm worker families, Closer to schools and services, we help create a more resilient and compassionate agricultural economy. Another important challenge to address is housing insecurity among our college students. Shockingly, over one-half of Oregon's college students are unstably housed or homeless. Our investment of $4 million in the future of our youth as they pursue their education will go towards grants for nonprofits supporting homeless and housing insecure college students. This investment will build more opportunity now and into the future for students and our economy. The investments and policy changes made during this session are strategic and impactful, and many will take time to make a difference. We have built too few homes in this state for decades, and it will take time and sustained focus to achieve our shared vision of every Oregonian having access to safe and stable housing. Nevertheless, this package is a testament to our resolve as leaders and as a state, making sure we do not lose focus on the work that must be done. This package is very much a team effort. I extend my deepest appreciation to all those who have collaborated tirelessly to bring these critical pieces of legislation to fruition. Our collective dedication to the well-being of every Oregonian is the bedrock of our progress. I hope each of you will join me in imagining an Oregon where every family in every community has access to safe and stable housing. Think of what that looks like for a moment. Our journey is far from over, but together with the help of this legislative package, we are one important step closer to transforming this vision into a reality. Thank you.
Well done. So thank you, everyone. So we are going to do the signings, and then I will take a couple questions at the end. So let's start off. We're going to do them in this order. I think everyone probably wants to be here for all of them, but just in case, we are going to start off with Senate Bill 611 and House Bill 3042, and then we'll do 3395, and then do 5511. So please, everyone, join us up here. Get close. We want you behind me. This is a team effort, so come on up. Okay, how are we looking back here? Get closer. Yeah. Again, thank you, everyone. Here we go. Senate Bill 611. Definitely cheer. Here we go. House Bill 3042. House Bill 3395. House Bill 5511. Need direction. Do you want me to do one, all four? One at a time? 611.
611 folks, here, thumbs up, please. Thank you.
3042. Bill lower, Governor? Okay, I can do that. Money ball. 5511. Thank you, everyone, for all your. There you go. We're not cash me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Feel free to hang out here and answer questions. So let's see what the press wants to know. Thank you, everyone. Do we need any more photos? Did anybody? Wait, we're good? Okay. All right. Yeah, please. Oh, hi. How are you? I didn't see you. Good to see you. Representing all this. Sorry. Good catch on the pen. Nice work. Nice work. And I want to take a moment to thank our other House colleagues who are here. Representative Bowman, Representative Neron, Representative Gamba. We have Mayor Hoy from Salem with us here. We have Representative Dexter and Representative Gomberg. Am I missing anyone? Oh, and Representative Ruiz. Thank you. This is really a team effort, so I'm just really pleased to have everyone here today. I know the summer's busy, so thank you for being here. This legislature left a little things at the end, so we're catching up on our bill side. So, questions? Anca, is there someone online?
Hello, I have a question from Dick Hughes. His question is, cities are struggling for operating money for homelessness programs. Neither you nor the legislature embraced the Oregon Mayors Association's proposed solution. To pay for homelessness services and other public safety programs, the Salem City Council has now created an employee payroll tax to be paid by every person working in Salem. Do you agree with this tax? What can or should be done to help local governments address homelessness?
Usual, Dick, that's a lot in one question. So let me just say three things in that response. So first off, I took the mayor's proposal very seriously when I came into office about helping our local governments provide those services. And in the bills that we've passed this session that I've been able to sign, there are resources for current infrastructure in communities, plus ongoing commitments as part of the emergency order. Those are flowing to local communities to provide those services. And I will say it's not enough. I think globally what we're seeing across the state, and I've had lots of conversations with local government, they are stressed to make sure services are there at the local level. And that is a long-term fundamental issue around how local government is funded. So as we turn to the situation in Salem, Salem leaders are saying we need to fund essential services. We might not agree on the approach that they're taking, but I can tell you what they're trying to do in a brave fashion is say we need to fund services. And here in Salem, I want to make sure that we have an open conversation with the city government here about our role in supporting their services, because we own a lot of property in Salem and we don't pay property taxes. So again, this is a larger conversation, but it is a priority for me to make sure local governments are strong partners in providing these services. That is why the emergency response is about working with local communities to provide shelter and rehousing services, because they're the ones doing the job on the ground with their community partners.
Christina? Yes, you mentioned progress, but how will you continue that progress if the funds that yourself and the legislature have put into place are not funding shelters in rural Oregon at the levels that they were prior to the pandemic? You already have shelters in Corvallis shutting their doors because they're not receiving those operation and maintenance funds that they got prior during the pandemic.
I really appreciate the question. And again, my commitment is to help local government do their part. This isn't just the state. This is the local governments with community partners providing the services on the ground. We have already started to analyze the budgets that I just signed to see where we have gaps. The Oregon Housing and Community Services Agency will be doing proactive conversations about where those gaps are, where we might have capacity issues because funding will be running out next year. We will be back in next year's session to try to make up for those gaps, but we need to assess where all the communities are, but we want to make sure we continue to maintain capacity. It does us no good to have things that have been online and working go away while we're also funding new things. We need both, and I am committed to making sure shelter services are continually available in communities across our state.
But they're shutting down now. What do you?
That I'm not aware of, so I look forward to talking about Corvallis in particular. But we have heard by next year there are going to be concerns in a lot of communities, so we have time for the legislative session next February to address some of that.
I have a question. Dirk Vanderhart from OPB. Has the governor ruled out a special session to take up her housing bill that failed the final day of session?
I am completely focused on the February session for next year, and it will be about housing production.
You mentioned flexibility for placing shelters. Deschutes County specifically has asked for help citing a managed camp outside their urban growth boundary, which would be against current state guidelines. They've requested a meeting with you tomorrow. Are you meeting with county commissioners, and are you willing to give them the flexibility to open the managed camp where they say they have property to do so?
First of all, I want to thank the leadership in Deschutes County and in Bend and Redmond for their efforts. They are part of the emergency order to provide more shelter capacity. I have written a response back to the Deschutes County commissioners asking for more information. I think it's important to provide as much shelter capacity within the urban growth boundary. And frankly, right now, I am not satisfied with the response. I cannot move forward with giving them unprecedented waiver authority to go outside the UGB unless they have exhausted what they can do within the urban growth boundary. And I don't think they've actually exhausted that yet. I'm not aware that I'm meeting with them tomorrow. I know, but here's what I would say. I support their role as local leaders, and they need to provide a plan that will explain how they will serve people in the locations that they are suggesting. And I have not gotten the answers. And I think you can tell from the work I've done so far, money does not flow, authority does not flow until there's a plan and there are clear outcomes associated with those plans. And they have not produced that yet.
Can you give us a preview of some of what you're thinking about for the February short session? The land supply bill will be back. What else should we expect to see?
Well, I will point all of you, because I know how much you want to get into housing policy, to the Housing Production Advisory Council. With set up in our at the first month of our administration, we have subject matter experts, we have legislative leaders connected with that council. They are charged with coming up with recommendations by the end of the year that will form the nucleus of our legislative ask in February. And they have already started to take up the land supply conversation that was started with House Bill 3414. We have to come back to that. And just to be clear, it's not just about land supply, it's about a whole bunch of other things as well, but you cannot ignore the land supply conversation. And we will be having that next year, in addition to other things around financing and workforce and reducing bureaucratic barriers to development.
Governor, what about accountability for this money? In other words, this is over $1 billion to help with the housing and homelessness situation. You look back a few months ago when the money was quickly approved through the legislature and you signed to get it going. We have not seen anything improve in the Portland metro area when you go out there and look around. This is $1 billion, and people say, look, you're just throwing money into an empty, into a pit. Where's the accountability? What are we going to actually get and see for this money?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I believe in outcomes. It's not enough to say we have more resources. You have to actually produce results. With the emergency order, which this money today, as well as what we passed earlier in session, stands up new shelter capacity, helps people from becoming homeless in the first place, and also rehouses individuals. We are focusing on meeting those goals. We have specific numeric goals for every community who is receiving those dollars to be accomplishing those goals by the end of the year. When it comes to the $650 million for affordable housing development for permanent supportive housing, we are going to have a set number of units we are trying to construct. We are not the sole source of the resources to make these things happen, but we are a critical partner. And I'm going to be very clear that money must come with specific outcomes, and we will be dogging that every day, every week, every month to make sure we hit those outcomes.
I have a question, Lauren Dake from OPB. Kids who are homeless have a much higher rate of being a homeless adult. The state of Oregon is defying a legal settlement that ordered them to find appropriate care for kids placed in foster care. Instead, the state has spent more than $25 million putting kids in hotels for extended periods of time. What do you think about that, and what are you going to do about it?
Well, first of all, when children are in the situation of abuse and neglect, we have an obligation of the state to keep them safe. Housing folks in motel rooms, even young adults, is not a good option. And we've been doing it too much. I welcome the role of the special master through the court to help us delve deeper into this complex issue. I'm committed to making sure we have more therapeutic foster care placements for children who need them. In a hotel is not the option. So we will be working on that. It is also important to talk about the investments we're making to help young people who are coming out of foster care, even either aging out or leaving early, to make sure they are not homeless. So we have been investing in our shelter capacity across the state. That was part of the bill in March. We're continuing, there's additional money in these packages for serving families who are unhoused. We have too many unhoused families right now. And that is a priority for me to make sure we are getting those folks into housing. So a lot of work to do there.
House Bill 2426. It's not one of the ones you signed today, but it deals with the pump your own gas bill.
Yes.
Do you plan on signing that? You have just a little over a week to have that signed or veto. What's your plan?
I have another conversation today with my team. We've been, first of all, I want to thank Oregonians who took up my request to let us know how they feel about SelfServe Gas. I think we've received over 5,000 emails on that. So we're reviewing those. Tomorrow is the deadline by which I have to notice whether or not the potential vetoes are in the works. I'm not saying that's on the list, but you will know by tomorrow if it is, because we have to give a 5-day notice to let people know whether I might be vetoing bills. But I'm still reviewing it at this point.
In 2015, you as speaker signed the bill that would have given like limited that, still is in the balance.
That's a good question. So we have had at least 2 bills prior to this one that kind of has moved us towards self-service in certain parts of the state. So I'm trying to understand, is this the right next step? And is there support for it? And people will know by tomorrow what my plan is on that bill. So, yeah.
All of these bills that you signed today help you reach your goal of building 36,000 units a year. And what can you share about progress?
Again, thank you for the question. I would point you back to the work of the Housing Production Advisory Council. For us to move to that target takes a multitude of solutions: financing, workforce, land supply, zoning and permitting. What you see in some of these bills, particularly in 3395, it's clarifying some of the ways things can be changed in terms of zoning for example, being able to build different types of homes in places that weren't allowed before. So there is some progress here. We did some bills early in session, and Representative Dexter could talk to this about the housing needs analysis. So we're setting the foundation. What you're going to see next year is I hope, a more aggressive set of tools that will actually, really jumpstart us on the path to the goal for 36,000 units per year. I want to make sure we're doing it thoughtfully in a way that will have results. So that's why we're focusing on the February session. Yeah.
I want to go back to this
Mm-hmm.
personally saying it, so would many state employees. Do you agree with the approach the council took in instituting this tax? And if you don't think it's the right approach, what should the state be doing to help Salem pay its bills?
Well, just to be clear, I did not have any preemptive conversations with the city of Salem. In fact, we just didn't have those conversations. I want to be clear. I understand why they're making that choice. I understand it. They need to fund services. And part of the reason they're doing that is the fact that the state government is in Salem and they aren't able to collect certain types of revenue because of the placement of state office buildings. Let's have that conversation. My sense is signatures are going to get collected to take that to the voters, and then the voters are going to be able to decide if they want to go down that path. So, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate your response to my question, and that next year you're going to be looking at funding for those shelters, maintenance and operation. It seems like it wasn't oversight in the current funding bill when you have shelters, and Corvallis is not the only one. I'm hearing from multiple shelters that they're facing that deficit now, and they're going to have to start reducing their staff. So how is this progress if that infrastructure and that progress we made during the pandemic is getting scaled back, particularly in rural Oregon? And what's your response to the people in rural Oregon that feel that you're focusing on the metro areas and not their part of the state?
First of all, I want to thank rural communities for stepping up. A lot of one-time money was used, pandemic-related resources, to increase their ability to serve folks who are unsheltered. That was a good thing. And the state, through my leadership, is taking a more active role to support them. And don't forget, we're still under emergency order. We still have a crisis in our state. If I have to access additional resources before next year because there is an immediate need, I will definitely review that and be open to that. So this is a situation where all hands on deck. So if a shelter is in danger of closing tomorrow, I want to know, and we're going to see what we can do about it.
Are you gonna do anything about the one that did just reduce 18 staff members and 26
I have to
beds?
be honest, I don't have the details on that, but hopefully we can get that. So I have some teammates here in the room that we'll follow up. I have not been contacted directly for their needs, so I can't speak to that. Any other questions?
Governor, just a quick follow on the gas tax. I know that's been, a big hot topic, but it's a head scratcher for a lot of people because 48 other states have already weighed in on that. You have a legislature that Democrats and Republicans, representatives of the people, voted for it. Why stand in the way?
Well, I don't think I'm standing in the way. I'm doing what is my job as governor, which is to review the legal sufficiency and the support for the bills that are coming forward. It's not the only bill we're reviewing. And I think what I would say is just because everybody else doesn't is not a good argument. Does this work for Oregonians? Do Oregonians want it? Will it be safe? Will it work for communities? And that is the filter that I'm taking to the bill. And you'll know by tomorrow what my plan is. So thank you. Everyone, thank you for being here today. Thank you. This round of applause for our advocates and all their hard work. Thank you. Thanks again. It's good to see you.
Great day.
Good night.